thank you for coming back for the workshop. And basically what I'm going to do is just walk through Humanities Commons, show you how to get started. If you have enough screen real estate to be able to do these things that I am doing as you see me do, by all means, go ahead. And that way, you know, I will help you troubleshoot if you run into any issues in getting started. But otherwise, you know, I will just show you how this whole process works. So this is Humanities Commons as it exists today. And we're in the process right now of doing a little bit of a redesign. So the front page will start looking a little bit different in the coming few weeks, but it'll basically have all of these same functions. Humanities Commons, as I mentioned, is a network of networks, right? So it has multiple major nodes on the network, including Humanities Commons. We also have major nodes for ACES, which is the Slavicists organization, the Association of University Presses, the Modern Language Association. As I mentioned, MSU has its node, and then the Society of Architectural Historians. And we have two more nodes that are going to be going live in the next month, and we're hoping that more will be following fairly quickly thereafter. You can always tell where you are in the Commons network just by kind of checking out this icon. So I know that I am in the sort of central hub of Humanities Commons right now as I'm getting started. And in order to create an account, you sort of click this register button, which seems relatively obvious, except you want to make sure you know where that button is. That button will take you to this screen, which will make sure that that's what you intend to do, right? You want to join Humanities Commons, you know, this is how the process will go. So it lays out the registration process for you. We'll ask you to enter and confirm an email address. And basically that you know, you enter your name, your email address, it sends you a message that you have to click a link in before we continue the process, because we want to make sure that nobody is able to sign up anybody else, right? You have to be able to click that email message link in order to continue. You choose a username, you choose the way that you would like to log in going forward, and then you'll be good to go. And so I'll show you what the registration pages look like, though I'm not actually going to walk all the way through it. You'll get lots of little sort of messages in between as pages load, just sort of letting you know what's happening in the background. But this is that initial page where you enter your name, you know, given name, family name or last name, email address, position. If you want to include the position in your profile, it's you are welcome also to say, you know, independent scholar or anything that you want to include, and an organization or institution if you have an affiliation with one, though it's also not required. There are no requirements for a particular position or anything like that in getting started. And then you hit submit. So I'm going to, do I want to do this? How am I going to do this? Let me see. I'm going to log in. I am going to use.
Can you change that email address later?
You can change that email address later. It is something right now, like it requires a little bit of service intervention on our end, but we're working on making that a self-service process, just because it's so sort of integrated as WordPress does into the entirety of the system, that it requires a little bit of developer effort. But we are working on, again, making this totally self-service so that you can change that email address. You can also add multiple addresses. And you can make sure you can designate that one of them is your primary, right? And that's the one that you want to receive. Any email notifications that you opt to receive can go to that one. Okay, so I am going to sign up. In order to continue the sign up process, You have to review the terms of service, right? So there is a click through to take a look at them. They lay out all of the guidelines. It's a lot of it, the legalese that the MSU attorneys required of us, but we intend this to be as human readable as it can be. We particularly encourage you to take a look at the user content section. This is the place where we tell you that the content that you give to us will only be licensed to us for certain purposes, that it all belongs to you. So you take a look at that, and then the I agree button becomes available for you to click. You submit, and it's now sending that email message that is asking me to verify my email address. So I'm going to see if that email address comes through, that request comes through. There it is. So activate your Humanities Commons account now, right? It's got the link in it that you click through and it takes you back into the process. It then asks you to select a login method. And we have certain login methods that use single sign-on with other kinds of platforms, right? So if you have a Twitter account, you can use your Twitter account to log in. If you have a Google address, you can use Google to log in. Our goal in this is to manage as few passwords as possible, and therefore keep our system as secure as possible, right? So if we get hacked and email addresses get out, there are fewer of people who are affected by this, because most people are using other things that have a certain level of security to log in. MSU employees can use the MSU single sign-on to join, but you can also create a new Humanities Commons login if you want to create a new username and password and keep it here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And the first thing that it asks you to do is to create a username. This is the username that is going to be part of your WordPress account. And so it'll be in the URL of your member profile. And so you kind of want it to have some meaning for you. So I'm going to try JDoe and see if that will allow it. I'm going to let my password system choose a password for me, and I'm going to hit submit. And it's now taken me to a login page, right? So I'm going to use the login that I just created to log in. It's checking my eligibility. Eligibility is basically just checking against the member databases of our partner organizations to see, is Jane Doe an MLA member? Should she have access to MLA Commons? Is she, was that an MSU email address, et cetera? And that way it just determines what parts of the site you should have access to. Jane Doe should not have access to anything other than Humanities Commons. That little 15-second countdown that you saw is basically just giving the server time to do all those checks and get through. So kind of sit through it. It's ugly, but it gets done. And here we are, right? Jane Doe now has an account in the Commons. And we're back on the front page. You can tell that I'm logged in because this is now here and the register and login buttons have gone away. And what I'm going to do first is just start the process of creating a profile and show you what that looks like. So to get to the profile, you can either just click on your name, or you can, in this drop-down menu, go to Profile View. And it will take you to a page that doesn't have any information in it yet, except for your Humanities Commons user ID and your name. So to edit your profile, you click this edit button, and it brings up a bunch of different fields that you can add to, and some that will be created automatically. So we asked you in the registration process to give us a position or title and an institutional affiliation if you have one, but we don't actually make that information public. This is the point at which you have the option to make that information public. So you can add that information if you want to. You can add Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, your ORCID ID if you have one, a URL for another website, and so forth. So all of those basic identifiers that are part of your academic identity, those will all end up appearing up here in this box with your name and your username. There are other profiles that take more robust information that you can create. And so you add a bio for your about. It can be anything that you want it to be. It can be as long as you want it to be. Information about your educational history, if you want to add it. You can upload a copy of your CV. You can list publications, you can list projects, you can list places where you're going to be in case people want to meet up with you and exchange and have a conversation with you. So talks and conferences that you'll be giving, memberships that you have, and so forth. You'll notice that there are a few fields like work shared in core, Commons groups, recent Commons activity. These are all automatically populated by your activity within the network. So as you deposit work in the repository, that will all be listed and linked here. So it helps you sort of build a presence where all of your information is available. Similarly, as you join groups and as you participate in groups and do things, as you build a site on the Commons, those things will automatically be populated here as well. Academic interests, you can add as you like. It's a type ahead system so that if you start typing, it will bring up possibilities for what it thinks you're looking for. And then you can select among these. It's a relatively controlled vocabulary, though, as you can see, you can add new things to it. So there are lots of options here. Those academic interests end up getting used as means of recommending things to you through the network, right? So if you say that you're interested in 20th century American literature, you will see in certain places on the site where there are things that are recommended for you, things from folks who also have that same interest. Also, those academic interests are clickable, so you can click and find out who all else has declared those same academic interests. So you can, create your profile, add to it, keep it updated, and then when you're done, and this is one annoying thing about the system and things that we are working on improving. Right now, you have to save changes, and it'll roll through and come back and say, yes, your changes are saved. And then once your changes are saved, and this is going to take a second apparently because it is thinking it over, or Zoom is taking up all my bandwidth, I'm not sure which. Anyway, it'll tell you changes saved, and then you go back to view mode. And that gets you out of editing mode and back into just what your profile looks like publicly. You'll see over here that there are options for changing your profile photo and your cover image. So this is the profile photo. You can add an avatar of any kind that you like. If the email address that you gave us is connected to an avatar service like Gravatar, that should automatically appear here. So you should have that. Jane Doe does not have a Gravatar. And then the cover image is this image back here. And you can change the cover image if you have one that you like. You can also just use this camera icon up here to choose an automatic, or to choose a random one, or that's what it's supposed to do, and it's not doing it today. Okay. In any event, that can be changed so that you can customize your profile in the way that you want. All right, so what I am going to do at this point is show you some of the other things that one can do on the Commons. And I am going to, actually, let me reload this because I'm logged in as Jane. I'm actually going to log out as Jane, clear my session. I'm going to log in as me. When you come to log in after you have already been on the Commons, you've created an account, you've logged in, you've done some stuff. When you come back to log in, it's going to tell you that, you know, recently you were here and this is the method you use to log in, right? So that you can just go directly, like if you used a Gmail login, it'll just put Gmail up here. My own personal login, I do differently. So there's this login another way button, which brings back all of the options. I'm using my MSU login, which is going to take me over to MSU's login service because I'm already signed in at MSU via single sign-on. It's taken me right in. Okay. I am a super admin.
Quick question.
I'm sorry?
Which browser are you using? Question from Antonio.
Yeah, I'm using Safari. This should be viable in any major browser. And if you run into any difficulties in a particular browser, let me know, because it would be good for us to keep track of making sure that everything is doing the thing that it should. This black bar across the top, you won't see when you're logged in. I'm a super admin in the system, and so it gives me all of these tools for things that I may need to do while I'm in the system, but so you can ignore that. But I'll just show you quickly my own profile again to see that, you know, once it's filled out, academic interests, again, I added directly, but Commons groups were automatically populated. Here's my work that's been deposited in the repository of varying kinds. So it automatically categorizes the work that you've deposited. And then I've filled out the other fields with education and publications and things like that. You can create links in any of those fields and connect people to the work that you're doing. So the sidebar over here links you to the major functions of the Commons so that you can see the things that are going on here. And this is the page that takes you to our list of members. You can see we've got somewhere over 30,000 members. They're from everywhere. And so this is my colleague, Larissa, who works with me on the platform. She's our user engagement specialist and has joined us within the last couple of months. And is probably one of the people that you'll talk to if you reach out to us for help. I have the opportunity to follow Larissa if I want to by going to her profile, or, you know, I could have done it from that member list as well, but you'll see that there is a button called follow underneath her profile image. And if I click that, it connects our profiles. Following on the Commons, like on Twitter, is one way. Somebody doesn't have to follow you back, right? So it's not like friending somebody on Facebook or something like that. It just lets you keep up with their activity and the kinds of things that they're doing. And you'll get particular kinds of notifications from the folks that you follow. And in particular, in the news feed, which is everything that's happening within the network that's going on. You can see everybody's activity here. If you click over to following, you get just the information from people that you have decided to pay particular attention to. Okay, so you can follow and unfollow members both from their own profiles or from the member page. You won't see this switch to button. This is a technical support function that allows me to see what the system looks like to you in case you're having a problem. So members. The next function, major function of the Commons is groups. And groups allow groups, as you might expect, of members to come together for certain kinds of discussions and information sharing and collaboration and other purposes. So the Open Access Books Network is a really active group within the Commons. They're doing a whole lot of collaborative work on creating open access in book publishing. And so they have a ton of members. They've got over 300 members. The files that they're sharing with one another, this is internal group file sharing, right? So stuff that they just want members of the group to have access to. Now, the group itself is public, as you can see here. So anybody can see what they're up to, but this is contained within the group. There's also this from core link, and we're going to talk about core in a minute. Core is our repository, and these, what are listed here, are things that people have deposited in the repository and then shared with the group. And that act of sharing creates this collection for the group of material that's been made completely public and open in the repository, but that the group receives notifications of. There's also discussion functionality within groups. It's a fairly standard threaded bulletin board style discussion that allows group members to contribute things that are going on and to talk about interesting stuff that's happening, including talking about the files that have been shared or deposits that have been shared or files that have been uploaded within the group. This is a public group. Groups can also be private. Get back and see if I can show you a private group. Okay, so public groups will give you a button that says join group, right? So you can just join, anybody can join and see what's going on in those groups. Private groups have a controlled membership. And so you request membership and their administrator receives a notification that someone has asked to join, and they can make a decision about whether to join or not. This is a Society for Music Theory Philosophy, and their membership is restricted to actual members of that organization, of that special interest group. So they're able to kind of do that. There are also, and you will only see this because I am logged in as me, super admin, hidden groups, right? And hidden groups for most users will not appear in the listings, right? They're really actually hidden. So they're not only private, but they don't give an opportunity for anybody to join, right? And so these are best used. We use these for editorial boards, or we use these for other kinds of like private working groups that really just want to make sure that they keep their information completely private. So you won't see those in the listings. You can also always in this listing get to the groups that you happen to belong to and restrict your view that way. Now you'll see these little things here suggesting daily digest or weekly summary. Every group that you join has the potential to send you email notifications if you want, but you get to control on a group by group basis what level of email you want. So there are some groups for which, like, once a day, I want a digest of what's going on in that group. And all of the groups for which I have daily digest selected will send me, it'll come in one email. Here are the things that are happening in the groups that you want daily digest for. Similarly, weekly summary. You'll get one a week that says there are new discussions, there are new files that have been shared, and so forth. You can say no email if there are groups that are too big and chatty, and frankly, you want to check in on them every once in a while, but you don't want to be bombarded. And then you can also have a group, and I'm trying to see if I have any, where you opt to receive all mail, right? Okay, so this is a hidden group of which I am the moderator. This is our participating organization council, to whom I answer on the governance of the Commons. And I want to know everything that's going on in this group. Anytime somebody makes an update, anytime somebody posts a question, I need to know right away. So I have all mail set there. So you really have a lot of control over what it is that you receive. I mentioned to you again the recommendations that we make, and these are groups that have been recommended to me based on my interests that I declared in my profile. So all groups have the same functionality available to them, whether they're public or private or hidden. And they are places where we want folks to be able to come together and work sort of in an inward facing way, talking with one another about their work. We also have site functionality. Now, this entire network is built on an enormous WordPress installation. And as a result, you can create a WordPress-based website here within the network for whatever purpose you want to. Those sites are public-facing, right? And so they're the ways that a lot of groups take their internally facing work and translate it for the world and make it available in a broader way. So again, you know, my friends at the Open Access Books Network, they have their group in which they're communicating with one another, but they also have a site in which they're communicating with the world. And so they, you know, tell the world about the group and how to get involved. And then they have a blog in which they keep people updated on the things that are going on within their network. So I'm going to go back to sites. We have sites that are created here, comprehensive exam notes, a grad student who is blogging the process of preparing for their comprehensive exams. We have blogs that are group oriented, that are really intended to be like sort of journal-like, if more informal, some that are more formal journal-like groups. STEM education at State. I mentioned to you the STEM educators group that we've been working with, and this is the site that they've created. And you'll see that there's just a very, very, very wide range of things that are happening, ranging from blogs to formal publications, to group sites, to archives, to just all kinds of stuff. So, and we have lots of instructors who have created websites for their classes that they use and encourage their students to connect with. So you can get to the sites that you have some kind of particular connection to, and you can also use this button to create a site. Similarly with groups, you can create a new group. And we just ask, particularly with groups, that you take a look around and see if there's not already a group that is doing the work that you want to do, and join in with that one rather than starting a competing group. But you're welcome to create new groups in any way you like. All right. At last, the repository. Now, this is in some ways the most active part of the network. And this is the place where you can upload and share your work with the world in ways that are robustly discoverable. The feed from the repository goes into all of the major open access repository feeds. It's consumed by Google Scholar, so material that you deposit here can be found that way. It's consumed in a lot of different ways. You can also, as we mentioned, get a DOI, a digital object identifier, which keeps the work permanently findable, and also makes it easily citable and easily directed to in future reuse. We encourage Creative Commons licensing on the material that you share. You can select the license, and you can select different licenses for different things. So that's a key bit of information there. And, you know, in many institutional repositories, you'll find certain kinds of restrictions on what you can deposit. Many, and in disciplinary repositories for that matter, many of them want preprints or postprints, and that's it. Some of them will say, okay, you can do that, and you can do theses and dissertations, or you can do a book monograph, you know, a manuscript or what have you. We will take pretty much any scholarly output that you can produce, whether it's images, whether it's text, whether it's video, like whatever it is that you want to share with the world and have preserved in the repository, you can. So the repository is robustly searchable. As I mentioned, these subject categories are about to change because we're going to be moving over to the fast subject categories. So they're going to look a little bit different in the future, but they're going to enable you to find material, again, simply by clicking. You click on narratology and you get everything that has added narratology as a subject. Any given deposit that you look at has more extensive metadata on its own page, and will tell you, like, this is the permanent DOI that's been assigned to this text, and will allow you to view or to download the deposit. This one is listed as being provisional, just because it's been deposited within the last 24 hours. And every time a new user makes their first deposit to the repository, we check it just to make sure that it's within scope, that it doesn't have errors in the metadata and so forth. And then we clear it and pass it through. And that enables us to sort of do a bit of spam prevention, because we do get spam. And it also enables us just to make sure that the metadata is doing the best possible job on behalf of the deposit. After that first deposit is cleared, any subsequent deposits a user makes clear automatically, and they go straight through without needing moderation. There's still a little bit of a provisional status that gets assigned to them for the first 24 hours, however, because we want people to be able to come back in and make corrections. And so you will see, like, edit this deposit on something that you've deposited recently, and you can make changes if you need to. Once it's been pushed through and formally published, then it becomes, you need to contact us to make changes. So I'll find something a little bit further down that will show you what that ends up looking like. It just says published, right? This was uploaded 11 months ago. It's got 53 downloads. As you'll see, we accept material in many, many languages. Last we checked, we had about 28 languages represented, and not exclusively Latin, what do you call it, alphabets. We have many alphabets represented in here as well. So to make a deposit, you would, instead of clicking on, pardon me, look for materials, you would upload your work, and then you get the upload form. Select the file that you're planning to upload, tell us whether it's been published or not, give us the title, the item type, what is this thing you're sharing with us? And as you'll see, there are a lot of different potential item types. An abstract, if you want to give us one. More authors, if it's a co-authored thing. And then you'll be able to add those co-authors below. And then you have the option, as I mentioned, with the Open Access Books Network folks, to share this deposit with groups that you belong to, up to 5 of them. And that will send notifications to the group and its members that this new deposit has been made available. You select your subjects. If there are things that don't pop up for you in our subjects, in that fixed vocabulary, you can add them as tags, and tags are searchable as well. You'd select a file type, right? So as opposed to item type, which is like, this is a book chapter, under file type, you would say it's text. Right. So what kind of media the thing contains. You tell us the language, any other information. If the thing has been published, then you tell us information about the publication, where it originally appeared, and so forth. You select your Creative Commons license and you hit deposit. And that is how you make a core deposit. So the repository is really extensively used. You will, if you're logged in, get certain recommendations of things that you might be interested in taking a look at. Just two more things that I'll point out to you. We have an extensive help and support site that can walk you through, how to create an account, how to manage groups, and so forth, as well as particular questions that you may have. And then that site that I showed you about how we're working to sustain the Commons is there under About the Commons. And that is the full walkthrough. And I see that there's been stuff happening in chat while I've been talking. So if there are questions that it would be helpful for me to answer, I would love to.
No, we just realized there's some people from AMICAL who are members there.
Oh, yes. Yes, I was noticing a few familiar names as I was looking at the members list. Some of you may well have joined just as we've been talking, and some of you may have been there for a while. So I'm delighted.
I joined in March when I gave a presentation during the Global Humanities Symposium, and it was really a good experience because I had mistakes in some of my slides. And so I wrote to you guys and they allowed me to upload the presentation again.
Oh, excellent. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, still had mistakes, but anyway, it's up there.
Yeah. Well, the Global Digital Humanities Symposium is a really good example of how an organization is using the Commons. So let me see if I can get to it quickly. Global Digital Humanities is a symposium that's hosted here at Michigan State every year. Yeah. It's run by my colleagues in the Digital Humanities program. And so there's a group that sort of discusses materials and issues. There's both a planning group that's private and then a public group for the symposium itself. There's also a site, but we've really encouraged presenters to deposit their material to course so that it gets shared here so that people who've attended can get access to slides or to papers or what have you. And then we've built in previous years a proceedings website that pulls all of those materials together and makes them publicly available as a collection to folks who maybe couldn't attend the symposium but want to find out more about what happened.
And sometimes you share resources and they're not in the presentation, but they would like to have access to it. So that's what they
absolutely
submit.
Absolutely.
Minutes? How much do we have left? I don't know.
Just a couple of minutes, but if there is another question, I would be happy to answer.
Any questions? I might have a very quick question. Maybe it's silly or naive. I don't know. Does anyone check that copyright rules have been, observed in terms of the bibliography? And
yeah, good
pictures,
question. Good question.
You add pictures to your presentation and you haven't actually acknowledged.
Yeah, we do not do that check. We, in the deposit form, there is a box that, and I think it may, I can't remember if it happens every time you deposit or only the first time, but there is a box that you have to check saying, I have the right to deposit this, right? Okay. And so we're taking your word for it. Because we are, what is the phrase? It's a DMCA safe harbor organization, which basically the Digital Millennium Copyright Act in the US basically set up a provision for safe harbor, which says that if material that an end user has uploaded to a platform is found to be in copyright violation, and the platform receives a takedown notice, we have to take it down and then contact the user and say, they told us it was copyrighted and you shouldn't have posted it. Do you want to appeal this? If you appeal, it can be re-uploaded, and we can all go about our business. But if we don't follow the principles of safe harbor, the platform can be held responsible and can be sued if copyright violating material is posted. So it's best for everybody concerned to make this like not it like we don't know, we don't check, we trust you.
Yes, there's a question. Jeff, do you want to?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So Kathleen, I was wondering if is there any guidance in terms of disciplinary scoping of material that's posted, and in particular for non-humanities content or content that might be sort of on the edge? Is there another affiliated commons platform that you direct people to, or how do you handle that kind of issue?
So thank you very much for answering that question, or asking that question. You've kind of answered it for me in a certain way. There is no disciplinary scoping on this. We don't consider anything out of bounds, in part because we figured anybody who's coming to a site called Humanities Commons and wants to share something there and wants to participate in groups has some affinity for the humanities that they want to participate in. So that's great. But we recognize that that term ends up convincing a lot of folks in like adjacent social sciences and STEM fields that they don't belong, right? So we are in the process right now of a disciplinary expansion. The first step of this was moving to the FAST metadata so that we could accommodate metadata for any field on campus. The next step is rebranding. And we're looking at ways right now to think about how the commons, if we get rid of the humanities, can still make the place inviting for folks in the humanities who know they can come and find their people, right? So that their communities are discoverable and they have that feeling of connection and belonging, while at the same time making room for folks in STEM and in social sciences and in all of the fields on campus. Because we really want to be able to offer the same kind of experience of an ethical open access academy governed platform to all fields. So that's on its way. Keep your eyes out, and
Great.
We'll be talking more about rebranding soon.
Great, thank you.
Awesome. I see it's 10 o'clock and probably y'all have things you need to go on to, and I do as well, but this has just been absolutely delightful. And I'm really, really glad that that you were here and that we got a chance to chat.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. This was excellent, really.
My pleasure. My pleasure.